Hello guys, you are seeing Prime News Australia, where we show you the latest and important news of Australia in the fastest and reliable way. So come, let's start by not delaying 25 big updates of the Australia, especially for you. Before proceeding in the video, comment by commenting from which state you are watching, and also like video so that YouTube can reach this video to more people of Australia.
Australia's fuel crisis has reached a critical stage, with more than 300 petrol stations, mostly in New South Wales and Queensland, now completely out of diesel and unleaded supplies. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has severely disrupted global shipping routes, causing prices to surge by up to 40 cents per litre in some regions. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese convened an emergency national cabinet meeting today to coordinate a national response. Severe tropical cyclone Narelle has intensified rapidly off the Pilbara coast of Western Australia, bringing destructive winds gusting over 200 kilometers per hour and torrential rain. The Bureau of Meteorology issued a red alert for coastal communities from Exmouth to Port Hedland, urging residents to secure homes and prepare for possible evacuations. The system, which earlier brushed Queensland's far north, is now tracking southwest and could make landfall within 48 hours. Far-right activist Thomas Sewell has been formally committed to stand trial in the Victorian Supreme Court over an alleged violent attack on an Aboriginal protest camp at Camp Sovereignty in Melbourne's Kings Domain last year. The 33-year-old appeared via video link from custody, facing multiple charges including assault and property damage. Prosecutors presented evidence of coordinated far-right activity targeting Indigenous sites. A suspicious early morning fire completely destroyed the Love Machine nightclub on Chapel Street in Prahran, Melbourne. Fire investigators recovered several jerry cans from the scene and have classified the blaze as deliberate arson. The popular venue, which had a long history of violence including shootings and repeated licensing breaches, was empty at the time, and no injuries were reported. Police are reviewing CCTV footage and interviewing former staff and patrons. Australian vegetable growers are halting new plantings and even abandoning some existing crops due to skyrocketing diesel and fertilizer prices triggered by the global fuel crisis. An AUSVEG survey released today revealed that nearly 60% of farmers are cutting production, warning of imminent shortages of fresh produce on supermarket shelves. The federal government has temporarily suspended travel for nearly 7,000 Iranian visa holders currently in Australia, citing national security concerns linked to the escalating Middle East conflict. Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke announced the measure would remain in place until further notice, affecting students, tourists, and temporary workers. Refugee advocates condemned the broad ban as disproportionate and potentially harmful to legitimate applicants. The Socceroos have named 3 uncapped players in their squad for crucial FIFA World Cup qualifier matches against Cameroon and Curacao next month. Coach Tony Popovich described the upcoming games as a, quote, last-chance saloon for qualification hopes and unveiled new Nike kits celebrating the team's centenary. Training camps in Sydney will focus on building cohesion after a disappointing Asian Cup performance. The fire-ravaged Mount Alexander Shire in Victoria has demanded that major fossil fuel companies contribute financially to climate disaster recovery efforts. More than 50 homes and businesses were destroyed in recent bushfires, and the council argues that large emitters must help fund rebuilding and adaptation projects. In a strongly worded resolution passed yesterday, councillors called on the federal government to introduce a national levy on coal and gas exports. Thousands of ABC staff began a rare 24-hour strike today, the first in 2 decades, protesting stagnant pay and worsening working conditions. The action forced the broadcaster to air BBC content across radio and television networks at a time when Australians are relying on public media for updates on the fuel crisis and cyclone warnings. Union leaders said management had ignored repeated calls for fair wage increases amid rising living costs. National Australia Bank has confirmed plans to cut hundreds of jobs, including offshoring several back-office roles to Asia, as part of a major cost-saving restructure. The bank cited ongoing economic pressures from the fuel crisis and global uncertainty affecting lending and deposits. Staff were notified via internal memo this morning, with voluntary redundancies offered in the first round. Banking union officials described the cuts as devastating for workers already struggling with cost of living pressures. Health authorities in the Northern Territory have declared a diphtheria outbreak after confirming 4 cases of a potentially deadly respiratory strain in the top-end region. The highly contagious bacterial infection is particularly concerning in remote Indigenous communities, where vaccination rates remain below national averages. The NT Chief Health Officer urged residents to check immunization records and seek immediate medical attention for symptoms such as sore throat and fever. Gold Coast Mayor Tom Tate is facing fresh questions over potential conflicts of interest after accepting gifts while undecided on a controversial Trump Tower development proposal. Documents obtained by local media show the mayor received hospitality from the developers shortly before a crucial council vote. Integrity campaigners have called for an independent review of the decision-making process. Wildlife rescuers are investigating the horrific death of a koala that was allegedly dragged behind a moving vehicle on a rural road in New South Wales. The animal suffered fatal injuries after being caught in a rope or harness, according to veterinarians at the Port Macquarie Koala Hospital. Police have appealed for public information following reports of reckless driving in the area. The Catherine River in the Northern Territory has peaked without causing further major flooding, allowing hundreds of remote evacuees to begin returning to their communities. Emergency services confirmed that critical infrastructure remained intact despite earlier heavy rainfall from monsoon activity. Residents expressed relief after days of uncertainty, though some areas still require cleanup operations. The AFL concussion class action has grown to more than 100 former players after 8 new claimants joined the multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the league. The players allege repeated head knocks during their careers caused long-term brain damage and neurological conditions. Court documents filed today detailed devastating personal stories of depression, memory loss, and early-onset dementia. A casual teacher at Sydney's prestigious Newington College has been charged with grooming a 14-year-old student after allegedly encouraging the boy to send explicit images in exchange for money. Police arrested the 28-year-old man yesterday following an investigation prompted by a complaint from the student's family. The case has raised serious concerns about safeguarding procedures in private schools. A 33-year-old Queensland man has been charged with preparing to engage in hostile activities overseas after allegedly traveling to Thailand with plans to join armed groups fighting in Myanmar's civil war. Federal police arrested him upon his return to Brisbane, citing intelligence that he intended to receive military training. The case underscores Australia's strict laws against foreign fighter involvement. The man, who cannot be named for legal reasons, appeared in court today and was remanded in custody. Jockey Michelle Payne, the first woman to win the Melbourne Cup, has been honored with a new bronze statue unveiled at Flemington Racecourse today. The life-size sculpture captures Payne's famous 2015 victory aboard Prince of Penzance and celebrates her trailblazing role in Australian horse racing. Thousands of racing fans attended the ceremony, including many young female jockeys inspired by her achievement. The Tasmanian government has introduced emergency legislation to cap fuel prices at the bowser as the national shortage drives costs to record levels in the island state. Premier Jeremy Rockliff said the temporary measure would protect regional motorists and businesses already hit hard by the crisis. The bill, tabled in Parliament today, allows the state to set maximum retail prices for petrol and diesel for up to 6 months. Opposition parties supported the move but called for a national approach. A drug-affected driver who injured several schoolboys in a hit-and-run crash in Sydney is suing the Commonwealth for alleged violent treatment during his arrest. The man claims federal officers used excessive force when apprehending him last year ahead of his upcoming sentencing. Court documents filed today detail injuries he says were sustained during the incident. A South Australian lobster fisherman, known as Lucky Luke, survived a terrifying shark attack off the state's south coast when a 3.5-meter great white grabbed his foot and dragged him underwater. The 42-year-old managed to fight off the predator and swim back to his boat with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Marine experts say the encounter occurred in an area known for high shark activity during the autumn feeding season. Terrorism experts have linked an Islamic State propaganda speech calling for bloody massacres at religious events to the 2025 Bondi Beach attack that killed 15 people. The surviving suspect's trial continues in Sydney, with prosecutors presenting evidence that the speech may have inspired the lone actor. Security agencies say online radicalization remains a significant threat despite improved monitoring. The federal government has urged the Fair Work Commission to increase the national minimum wage by more than the current inflation rate to help low-paid workers cope with soaring cost of living pressures. In its submission lodged today, the government highlighted the extra burden placed on households by the fuel crisis and rising grocery prices. Unions welcomed the stance, while business groups warned that large wage hikes could fuel further inflation. A grieving New South Wales mother broke down in court as the driver who killed her 2 young children in a crash was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The woman told the court the driver had valued saving his uninsured luxury car more than human lives, describing his actions as callous and unforgivable.